couple minutes after 11. It's 11 here for me. So what I have up on the screen right now is you can log into your account if you would like to. The stuff that I'm going to go through today, if you want to follow me along and kind of click on things and mess around with things as I'm talking about how to use different features within CC, feel free to go ahead and do that. If you are brand new and you don't have an account yet, welcome. Go ahead and create your free account. If you don't want to mess around right now and you just want to follow along and watch, that's fine too. You can just do that. I do plan on uploading the recording of this to our YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed to us on YouTube, just encourage you to do that. You can get updates sent to you, notifications of when we have new videos posted. Same thing, post it on our other socials too, like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. Okay. So just a little bit about me before I get into things. I'm Jen. I'm a teacher success associate at CC, but I am a former high school teacher. I taught for 7 years and I taught in many different departments. My first 3 years, I was in special education and I was an inclusion teacher. I also taught pull-out classes. I taught social skills. And then for the other half of my time teaching, I was in gen ed. Actually, my original degree is in secondary history education. So I did that for my second half. And a lot of that time, I was still teaching SPED. I was teaching English language learners, all within that gen ed space as well. So I've had a lot of different schedules when I was teaching. And then I am a forever dog mom. I know I mentioned Winry in my emails. She's usually a feet warmer. She sits at the foot of my desk usually and keeps my feet warm. She's very fluffy. She's not a really huge fan of the summer. She loves the winter. She could stay out in the cold all day. Okay, a few things to know before we get started. This session is being recorded. So like I said, I do plan on posting this to our YouTube channel. So just in case like you don't want your face to pop up, you can turn your video off if you would like to. I think it's mostly just recording my screen and myself, but if you just want to make sure that doesn't happen, if you care about that, you can just turn your video off. And then I'll present for approximately 30 minutes, give or take, followed by a 15-minute Q&A session. There is quite a few of you in the session today. I think we have 43 all together. If you do have questions, go ahead and type it in the chat. I will try to check on the chat periodically, but once I get in the flow of going over something, I might forget to go check it every little bit, but I'll definitely try to towards the end. Definitely during that 15-minute Q&A, I'll try to go back through. If there is anything that I missed today, there's quite a few comments coming through on the chat. I know, like I said, there's quite a few of us here. If I do miss something, I just want to say this now. Please make sure that you send us a message at support@commoncurriculum.com. There's 5 of us at CC. We're a very small team, but you will be talking to an actual person and we will get back to you as soon as you can. So if I do miss something today, you have a question, I miss it, or I didn't explain something very well, maybe I mumbled over something and you just didn't quite catch it, please make sure you message us at support, just in case I do miss something. By the end of today's session, you'll know how to create units and use the unit timeline. You'll know how to create class websites. And then I also want to go through a few other little features that I think teachers just kind of discover on their own. But I do have questions coming through on support quite often about things like this. And I just think it's because we don't really point it out, like when you're setting up your plan book, these just might be features that you might miss. So they're just a few little things that I just want to tell you about, make sure that you know is there, and it might help you as you're planning your lesson. So filter lineup classes, collapse classes, search your lessons, and then also browse your lesson history. Okay, so what I want to go through first is how to use your unit timeline. So the unit timeline is for those that have CC Pro, or if you are part of a school account. So if you have CC Basic, you won't have access to the unit timeline. So if you are someone that has CC Basic and you're just interested in what you can do with the timeline, that's awesome. Welcome. Hopefully you'll see that it might be worth it to you to upgrade to the CC Pro, or maybe it's not, but at least you can check it out today. So this is my sample plan book. I taught US history my last few years when I was teaching. And so I just kind of based my plan book off of my last schedule that I had. But how to use the unit timeline. So that is right here. That is one of your views. So you can plan your lessons in your day view, your week view, your month view, your outline view, and then also your unit timeline. So what I have done with my sample plan book is I just have a few classes set up here, which I am going to show you some other plan books as well, some other sample plan books. But this is your unit timeline. So what you can do is you can actually plan out your lessons kind of at a higher level view. This is something that you could use. Maybe you're planning with a team and you want to plan out at the beginning of the year your pacing, or just have an idea of your pacing. So this unit 1 here, I have for the Civil War era. I put in unit 2 is Reconstruction. Unit 3 is the Gilded Age. And then I'll show you how this reflects actually within your lessons. But if I wanted to add another unit, all I have to do is go over here to units. So I'm on my period 1, go to add units, and then these pluses will come up. So you'll see these pluses, and then to start the unit, you just click the plus where you want to start it. And then you can title it. So this would be my unit 4. What comes after the Gilded Age? Progressive era. And then I can change the color of my unit. We'll just pick yellow. And then my unit is here. Now I know I want my unit to go out. We'll say it's a couple of weeks. If I want to adjust it later, I can always pull it out longer. I can shorten it up if I want to. And that you're doing in your unit timeline, which is with most things in CC, you can go back and edit it. Nothing's really set in stone, except for a few things here and there. But most things you can edit them once you have that completed. If you want to add a subunit, I have an example right here of a subunit. So in unit 3, the Gilded Age, I know that I'm probably going to focus on The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. I want to really focus in on deeper into that. So I just added a subunit. If I want to add another subunit, maybe during this era, I know there's going to be several lessons just over Abraham Lincoln. So maybe I want to add that in. Change my color here, do red. And then I can drag that out over the days. And as you can see here, you can keep adding subunits. So if there was another little subunit that you wanted to note in your lessons, maybe it's about the Emancipation Proclamation, you can add in a subunit there if you want to. Okay. So what I'm also going to show you, I mentioned this in like the first like introduction to CC and all that, but your undo button is really handy. If you accidentally added in a unit you didn't want to, or you accidentally resized a unit you didn't want to, you can just use your undo button to undo things. Okay, I want to show you what these units show up as in your lessons. So if I go to my week view, you can see them right here. So anytime you add a unit in your unit timeline, it's going to note that in your individual lessons. So first, I have a unit, this is Civil War era, so this lesson fits in that unit. And it's also a subunit too, as the Abraham Lincoln. And then if I keep going, because I only have that subunit on these 2 days, So if I keep going through the lessons that I have, you'll see that just wherever those lessons fall within those units, it will note that in your lessons. Even if you don't have your lessons planned yet, it's going to show up to signify that it's part of that unit. If you want to edit your unit, so if you click on the unit, this is where the unit timeline can really come in handy. If you have a bunch of materials, you have standards, you have resources that you want to build for that unit, and you don't want to put them in lessons yet, or you have like a big unit overview. I know when I was teaching, we had a big document for all of the units that we had. And on the first page, well, first few pages really, there was all the standards we needed to cover for that unit. There was a list of resources we were going to use for that unit, primary documents that we needed to use for that unit. So all of that good stuff, all of that unit planning, you can add that in here. So you could add cards. So there's a standard card to add all the standards you're going to be covering. You can add another card. Maybe you want to call this one resources. Maybe you also want to throw in all the websites that you're going to be using in that unit. And then you could throw in your links there if you wanted to. So this is where you want to do all your unit planning. You can also pull this up. So if you go to your unit timeline, you can click on your unit and you have this option here to show your full unit in the sidebar. So you can pull this up and then you can plan out your unit. In the unit timeline, you'll see these little blue dots, and those are just signifying the lessons that you have created. So no blue dot, that means you just don't have a lesson plan there yet. So if I click on a blue dot, it pulls up my lesson. If I click on the unit, it will pull up the unit. So everything that I've started here for my unit planning, I can use this to plan my lessons if I want to. So if I have a bunch of links over here and I want to put them into my lessons, I could pull these both up so I can look at them both at the same time and plan my lesson while I'm looking at my unit plan. Or if I see there's a standard over here that I want to throw into this lesson, I can copy it and then I can paste it over here into my standards card. So anything you have built over here in the unit, you can paste it into your lessons as you're planning them. Okay, I'm gonna check out the chat really quick, see if there's any questions. Okay, so the question is, I changed the order of my classes on my day, week, and month planners, but the order didn't change on my unit timeline. Is there a way to do that? I don't believe there is. I'll have to mess around with that. I haven't had that question before. There might be a way to change them around, but there may not. I'll just have to mess around with that. So the person that sent me that question, can you send that same question to support@commoncurriculum.com? And then I'll go in and mess around. I'll probably even go into your plan book and see what you have set up, and then we can see what we can do to get that. So send me that message, support@commoncurriculum.com. Someone's asking about recordings. Yes, I am going to post these to the YouTube channel. So subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want updates on that. Okay, I do want to show you some example plan books. So I have several sample plan books in my account, and these are actual teachers' plan books. So we had teachers submit their plan books. They said they wanted us to use them for demos and trainings and stuff like this. Any identifying like names, stuff like that, that's all taken out of the plan books, but these are actual teachers' plan books. Okay, so I want to show you this one here. Okay, so this is a middle school English language arts teacher's plan book. And they filled out their unit timeline. So you can see, so their year starts here. They have a year start unit, and then they have their theme unit. They also have a subunit within there. So then if we go through the year, they have their units built out. If I click on a unit, we can open it up in the sidebar, and this teacher filled out their unit plan. So they added in the unit assessment. They added in the text they're going to be using for that unit. They added in the key vocabulary and then the main focus. So then if this teacher wanted to use their unit plan while they were planning out their individual lessons, they could click on an individual lesson and then pull up the unit, and then you can use this. They could have used this to lesson plan their individual lessons. They also have a subunit in here too. So if they wanted to fill out all of that information for the subunit, they could do that too. Okay, I do want to give you a few minutes here. We'll go through the other things pretty quick. What are questions that you have about the unit timeline? If you want to turn on your mic, if you want to ask a question, that's fine. You can type it in the chat. Okay, if you do have more questions about how to use the unit timeline, I want to show you this really quick. So we have a help center, we have tutorial videos. If you go to the tutorial videos, it's this whole CC University. There are videos that show you how to get things set up in your plan book, and things I'm going through, like how to use your unit timeline. There's this backwards planning video. If you want to go through and watch that, that will walk you through how to use the unit timeline as well. My computer is being silly. Okay. And then also in the help center, if you go here and you search, we can put in unit. There's a bunch of help articles. A lot of them have videos that walk you through the steps, how to use the unit timeline and how to build things within your unit timeline. So this is also a good place to go if you have questions. And then also just contact us. You can send us a message at support. Okay, so someone is asking, can you import a unit from one year to another? Yes, you can. So let's say that I'm in my week here. If I want to import lessons, so let's say for this first class that I have, I want to import lessons from a previous plan book. I just click on my lesson menu, and then I click on import lessons and units. And then it's going to have different plan books that I have access to. So I could pull these up, click on the class that I want, and then I can click the units and it will automatically select all the lessons within that unit. And I can click import and it will import that automatically into my plan book in order. If you have multiple units you want to, let's say you want to import 2 units or 3 units or however many you want to, you can select all that you want to. If you only want certain lessons, you can just select certain lessons if you would like to. And then you can import that into your plan book. Okay, so setting up the calendar, if you're referring to the unit timeline calendar, I think is what you're referring to, you don't have to set that up before you start. If you start planning lessons and then you decide, oh, hey, I want to go in and start putting in my units, you can do that after. You don't have to do that before you start. Yep, the lessons you create will automatically appear on the unit timeline. Yep, so those little blue dots, if you're creating lessons in the day view, the week view, the month view, the outline, wherever you're creating your lessons, they will show up here when you go to your unit timeline. Okay, so someone's asking about, do we each copy the plans into each of our planners? How do you suggest we work as a team? There's some different options for how you can collaborate. I am going to a session that will be specifically over that, about collaborating and sharing your plan book. Encourage you to join that. Also watch the recording if you can't attend that session. What I will say today is there's the sharing in class website button up here, and you can collaborate with an individual. So if you are working on a team of teachers, you can just add that teacher to your plan book and you can both work on it at the same time. So essentially you can share a plan book if you would like to. It's kind of like how Google Docs works. Like if you share a document with someone, you can both work in that document and it's a living document. The same thing applies here. If you wanted to, like if you didn't want to share a plan book, but you wanted to plan lessons and then import lessons from their plan book, you can do that too. But yeah, plan on joining that session. I'll go into more details about all of that stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna share a few more things here. So the next thing I want to talk about is class websites. So let me go back to my homepage here. Okay, so let's go to this one. Okay, here's an elementary plan book, an example of one from a real teacher. So to use a class website, what you want to do is you click on the sharing class website button within your plan book, and then you'll see this button over here on the right, and it says create a class website. You can create a class website for each of your classes. So if I go back to my lesson and unit planner, and I just want to go check out my schedule, my classes. So this teacher has a reading workshop, a writing workshop, math, science, social studies, word study. So this teacher could have created a class website for each of those different subjects. For high school teachers, it comes in really handy because, or like middle school teachers, you can share a link with, let's say your first period class is US history. You can share that first period US history class website link with those students' parents and those students. And then your second period US history, you can share a link for that specific class and those plans to those parents and to those students. So I'm going to go to sharing class website and I'm going to create a class website. So it's super easy. All you have to do is click that button. And then here you want to select the classes that you want to create the website for. So the options here, I'm going to pick math. So I want to create a website for my math class. Once I click that, it's created. So this link right here, all you have to do is share this link with your parents, with your students, with whoever you want to have access to it. And then that's all you have to do. There's no sign on. Like nobody has to have a username. Nobody has to have a password. Once they have that link, they can get to your website. So I'm going to visit my website. If you click here, you can move to different, like the part of the calendar I'm on right now, there's no school year here, but I can jump to wherever I want to. I'm just going to go to the first day of school. Okay. So for this class website, you'll see that you'll see the lessons like you do in the week view in your lesson planner. So when you're planning your lessons, you get to choose what you want to show up on your class website. So the only reason that procedures and activities is showing up is because I've selected that in the plan book. I selected on my plans, I want procedures and activities card to show up on my website. But if I don't want that to show up, I can just take it off. And really that's because when you're planning your lessons, you might have sensitive information in there. You might have notes just for yourself. You might have something about accommodations and modifications. Maybe you just put a note in there that you need to call Joe's mom and dad because you just wouldn't get off his cell phone all day. Maybe you put a note for yourself in your plans. You don't want that to show up on your class website. So let's look at how you can adjust that. Okay, so the website's set up all here. I'm going to go back to my planner. I'm going to go to math. And I can see the lessons here. So if I want one of these cards to show up on the website, then I can click this little globe, show on class website, and then it will show on the class website. If I don't want it to, if I decide I don't want to, I can click that and then hide on the class website if I don't want it to show up. So same thing with, see, like this teacher, they had a differentiation card. Wouldn't want that to show up in your class website. So you just don't hit the show on class website for that one. If you already have all of your lessons built before creating your class website, you'll have to go to your lessons and go to the cards that you want to show and click show on class website. Excuse me. Then click here, show on class website, show on class website. If you already have those lessons created, then you'll need to do that. You'll need to go to the cards and click show on class website. So they'll probably take you, I don't know, a couple of minutes at the beginning of your week. Just go through and click the show, whichever cards you want to show on your website for that week. Or if you have weeks planned out, you can go through and select those cards that you want to show up. If you don't have your lessons created yet, there's a way that you can automatically have things show up on your class website within your template. So if I go to my settings, I'll show that again, change templates. Here's my classes. So let's say for math, I want to edit the template. And I know that every day I want procedures and activities to be visible on my class website. I can set it right there. Or I know that every day I want technology to show up on the class website. I can click it here, show on the class website. And because it's in my template, it's going to automatically apply to lessons that I haven't built yet. This is one thing about CC to note is that any lessons that you have built, if you change something in the template, it's not going to affect past lessons because we don't want to mess up lessons that you've already planned. So let's say that you decide that you want to take out the technology card. You don't want that in your lessons anymore. We definitely don't want to delete past plans that you've already done. We don't want to get rid of any of that stuff. So it will just apply to the future lessons that you don't have planned yet. So that's the same thing with the class website. If you set it visible in your template, it's going to show up for all the lessons you don't have planned yet. But the lessons you've planned in the past, you'll have to go through and click those individual cards to get it to show up. Okay, I'm going to show you. So if we just look at, here's like a high school math plan book. So if I go to my class website, this teacher had 3 different class websites set up. So one for their algebra class, one for their geometry class, and then one for this class. So if this teacher wanted to create a class for all of they only have 3 classes because they're high school. So they're teaching different sections of the same class. But you could set up, if you have 8 different classes, you could set up 8 different class websites, one for each of those classes. Check on the time here. Okay. Any questions about class websites. Type those in the chat. I am going to keep going with just a few more items today, and then we'll have more time at the end to answer questions. Okay, I'm going to go into, this is an elementary and middle school art teacher. I really love this plan book. I've looked through many plan books, and this teacher did a really good job of putting in a visual. So anyone that likes that type of stuff, if you want to have a visual within your lessons, you can add in photos to go for those days if you would like to. Okay, so filter and line up classes feature is right here. So if you click this teacher had a lot of classes because they were a specials teacher. So they just turned classes on and off on days that they didn't have those classes. They're all turned on right now, but she would have turned classes off when she didn't have them. But that's why she has so many, because she had so many different teachers. But if you want to filter your classes, so if on a certain day or when you're planning out your lessons, if there's classes you don't want to see, you can uncheck them and then they won't show up. If for some reason you also want to hide all of your classes, you can do that if you want to. You can show all of your classes. If you want to line up your classes, there's this little toggle right here. So you click that, and then it will line up. So if you are someone that really wants things to look really clean, this will line up your classes. So all of K Baker, all of those classes are lined up even. And then we scroll down, go to K Chaplin, all of those classes are lined up, regardless of how long a lesson is within the week, they're going to be lined up. So if you're someone that likes to see things like that, you can use that feature. Okay, computer. Okay. If you have really long lessons, I know that there's some teachers, they have a lot of standards, there's a lot of materials. They're very specific with their procedures. Special education teachers, a lot of things that you have to document, a lot of different things that you need within a lesson plan to make sure that you are meeting every student's needs. So you might end up having a pretty long lesson. That does seem overwhelming to some people. I think it would be for me. You can collapse your classes, and then you can just expand the lesson that you're working on, or multiple lessons, and then you can have everything else. And then we can just uncheck that when we want to do that. And then the other thing I want to show you is there's this search lessons button here. So you can actually search for keywords. When you are naming your lessons, the title of your lesson is pretty important. So for this teacher, she put in like letter, number, symbol, design, day 2. So she's being pretty specific about what that lesson is. She's not just putting lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3. And the reason you want to do that is if you do want to search for a lesson, let's say that, I don't know what some of her lessons, but maybe, so you can search for keywords and they'll pop up. We could go, let's go to mine. I know that this will work. So in my sample plan book I created, I know that I titled things about Civil War. I know that I have a unit titled Civil War. So if I just type in that word, those are going to pop up, and then I can click on those. Or if I was searching for a certain lesson about craft, those are going to pop up, and then I can open up those lessons. I can copy things, paste them to another lesson that I'm working on if I want to. And then the other thing I wanted to show, I'm going to go back to my week view. I'm going to find a lesson that I have built. On the lesson menu, you can click on this and you can browse your lesson history. And the reason why I wanted to show you this is because you might discover this on your own, but it's not like a well-known feature, I don't think. So if you click on this browse lesson history, it will show you the different histories of that lesson, and you can click on them, and then you can actually roll back to that version. So let's say you were working on some lessons one day, and then there was some, maybe you close out of the browser or you refreshed your screen, so you can't undo anymore. You can undo anything you're working on in your plan book as long as you don't refresh your screen or close out of your browser. So let's say that you did that. You were working on a lesson, you were done with it for the day, you closed out of your browser, you come into the next day and you realize, oh, I didn't want that. You can come back here to the history of your lesson and can roll it back if you would like to. So that's just kind of just like a hidden feature, I guess, that I just wanted to point out that might come in handy. Okay, those are the features that I wanted to show you today. There's a lot more features, but I will focus on those in other sessions that I have, like the sharing class website. I have a session that'll focus on that. The standards tracker, I have a lesson that'll focus on that. So if you definitely want to learn more about those, join me for those sessions and I'll go into details. Okay, let me see what I have going on in the chat here.